This key hasn't opened a door in 77 years, but the house it belongs to still stands. Somewhere in Lahore, there is a door this key fits perfectly. Does a family live there now? Do they know who built it? Or is it locked, waiting for an owner who will never return? In 1947, 15 million people didn't just lose homes. They lost proof that they ever existed. But some refused to fade away. This is the story of what Partition destroyed and what refugees built in return. Picture Lahore. Summer of 1947. A Hindu shopkeeper shares tea with his Muslim neighbor, a ritual unchanged for decades. A Sikh farmer walks fields his grandfather planted. In Bengal, families prepare for festivals together. No one senses disaster. No one knows these are their last normal days. Then the announcement comes. A border will be drawn, and no one living there is asked. The man drawing that line had never set foot in Bharath before. He did not know the streets of Lahore. He did not know the villages of Punjab. He did not know the rivers of Bengal. He was given 5 weeks. Old maps, outdated census data, no meetings with the people who lived there, no warnings given. The line he drew was so thick on paper that on the ground it cut through 3 miles of land. A man's front door was in Bharath. His backyard was in Pakistan. When he left, he burned his papers. He refused his salary, not as courage, but because even he could not carry the weight of what he had done and walked away from. August 13th, 1947. 2 days before independence. A knock at the door. A neighbor whispers, "We're on the wrong side." Wrong side. Think about that. Your home, your memories, your ancestors' soil. Suddenly, wrong. Families pack what they can carry. One photograph, some jewelry sewn into cloth, a house key. "We'll come back in a week," they say. That week never comes. 15 million people move at once. Trains meant for safety arrive filled with bodies. Roads become graveyards. Women vanish. Children disappear. Elders collapse and are left behind. But look closely at those refugee camps. Not as crowds, as individuals. See that young man selling spices on newspaper sheets in Delhi? His name was Mahashay Dharampal Gulati. He arrived from Sialkot with nothing. Years later, his face would smile from millions of Bharathi kitchens. MDH. Now look again. That boy repairing bicycle parts on a pavement? His family fled Kamalia. Those hands would go on to build Hero cycles. And later, Hero Moto Corp. They slept on pavements, but they were already building empires in their minds. Delhi wasn't ready. Railway platforms became bedrooms. Purana Kila, a monument built for Mughal emperors, now sheltered 50,000 refugees. Doctors stood in ration lines. Landowners begged for work. Men who once fed 50 people now watched their children sleep hungry. Identity collapsed. And then there was silence. No slogans, no speeches, no flags, just people sitting beside trunks they no longer needed. Men stared at hands that no longer held land. Women folded clothes that smelled like homes they would never see again. Children asked questions no one could answer. This silence did more damage than noise ever could. History often says 1947 was the year we got freedom. And that is true. But freedom looks different when you are carrying everything you own on your back. You only know that a nation became free. But when you look at their faces, you understand how freedom affected them. They did not arrive with anger. They arrived with hope. Hope that the violence was over. hope that the loss would end at the border, hope that someone would be waiting. What they received instead were refugee camps, canvas tents, tin sheets, long queues for ration cards. Freedom gave them a country, but it did not give them homes. And yet, those same men woke up the next morning and did something no one expected. They didn't wait for help. They didn't wait for permission. They built their own economy. Within weeks, refugee camps had their own markets. Barbers, tailors, cobblers, teachers, doctors who stood in ration lines on Monday were running free clinics by Friday. Men who had lost everything fed hundreds from community kitchens they built themselves. This wasn't charity. This was civilization rebuilding itself from memory. Within 6 months, camps stopped feeling temporary. They became colonies. Lajpat Nagar, Rajinder Nagar, Tilak Nagar. These weren't just names on a map. They were declarations. We will not stay refugees. A man who lost his cloth shop in Lahore arrived in Delhi with a bundle of fabric. He cut it into small pieces, sold them door to door. People laughed. "Who will buy scraps?" he said. "People who know how to stitch dreams together." 6 months later, 3 employees. 1 year later, a shop. 5 years later, a factory. His children never knew what a refugee camp looked like. Another family fled with nothing but grandmother's pickle recipes. They started making achar in a shared kitchen, borrowed vessels, borrowed stove, borrowed hope. 2 years later, supplying 50 stores. 10 years later, their own brand. Today, their grandchildren export to countries they once could not even pronounce. This is what Partition created. Not just refugees, the most resourceful generation Bharath has ever known. Because when you lose everything once, you don't just rebuild. You build in a way that no one can ever take it from you again. But not everyone could rebuild. Not everyone survived to try. 75,000 women were abducted during Partition, taken from trains, from fields, from their own homes. Many were raped. Many were forced to convert. Many were never found again. And for those who were recovered, the suffering did not end there. Some families refused to accept them back because honor, they said, mattered more than a daughter's life. There were no photographs, no police records, no witnesses. Their pain was not written down. It was buried in silence. Mothers never spoke of it. Daughters never asked. But trauma does not disappear. It transforms. Their daughters studied harder than anyone else, not because they were told to, but because education was the one thing no one could take away. Their granddaughters became doctors. Their great-granddaughters run businesses today. The silence ended. Not because the pain disappeared, but because strength is inherited too. Look again at the world around you. A man named Mahashay Dharampal Gulati arrived in Delhi with 7 rupees and a spice recipe. He sold from a wooden cart. Years later, his face smiled from every kitchen shelf. M.D.H. The Munjal brothers fled Kamalia with bicycle tools and raw will, from pavements to factories, Hero Cycles, Hero Motocorp. A family that lost its business would later connect hundreds of millions through invisible networks. Every phone call you make, every spice you cook with, every bike you learn to ride on, you are living inside the legacy of someone who lost everything and refused to disappear. Even today, many families keep keys. Keys to houses that no longer exist. Keys to doors behind borders. They don't open anything, except memory, hope, identity. In 1919, a blogger in Pakistan found an abandoned house in Lahore. The owner had fled in 1947. He traced the family to Delhi, sent photographs. The grandson saw his grandfather's handwriting on the wall. A recipe, a prayer, a date. August 10th, 1947. He didn't cry because the house was lost. He cried because it was remembered. This key never opened a door again, but the man who carried it opened 100 doors for others. Partition took homes, but it could not take will. It took land, but it could not take spirit. This is not just the story of what was broken, it is the story of what was built with broken pieces. In 20 years, there will be no one left who remembers 1947 firsthand. No one to describe the trains, the camps, the silence. This isn't just history, it's memory. And memory dies when we stop sharing it. If this moved you, share it. And in the comments, tell me, what did your family lose in 1947? Or what did they build after? Let's remember together.